When I first got into firefighting back in right around 1989, we never worried about the smoke. We never worried about the carcinogens that were soaking into our skin. We never cleaned our stuff. We didn't, unless we got blood all over it, then we would clean it. We fought a lot of fire back then, and it was mostly legacy stuff. So with the newer materials that we have now put the AFFF foam, PFAS, and all the carcinogens that we get from every house fire soaking into our bodies, there's your base for every type of cancer that we're getting. Back in 1999 was the first time that I was diagnosed with occupational cancer. And then I unfortunately got it another 3 times. And they've had to remove my bladder, my prostate, my urethra, scrape my pelvic basin. They've taken muscle. It's been quite the journey. 25 years. The cancer this last time around broke me. That's the first time I've said that out loud. They weren't able to control the pain. And I honestly didn't think that a human could suffer that much and still live. Those were some of the toughest days of my life. My family had to watch that. Sorry. I have so many long-term issues from the surgery and the treatments, the chemotherapy. I've got neuropathy from that in both hands, both feet, in my legs. And where my bladder and prostate used to be, in the perineum area where my rectum used to be, I have neuropathy there also. I have a colostomy, I have a urostomy, and I get septic all the time. There's times where I've missed 3 days where I don't remember what I did for 3 days. And that's the small things, really it's the burning pain in my perineum that drops me. I dehydrate so quickly. And the hardest day that I've had since I've been on the job, and I've had some hard days, was the day that they told me I can no longer be on a truck. I can't ride a fire truck anymore. I had to come home and tell my family. And then I had to tell my crew. And I felt like such a frickin' loser. It's not the way I wanted to go out. If I would have gone in earlier with the symptoms that I was having, the weight loss, a little bit of bowel discomfort, there was no blood or anything. If I would have just gone in and said, hey, this really hurts, my bowel movements hurt, I'm losing weight, we could have stopped this thing in stage 1, maybe stage 2. When it's small. And I didn't do that. So I have to pay the price now. How you been? This staff is amazing. That's about normal.
Okay.
Thank goodness. I need to start working out.
It's all good. All good. Feel free to take a seat wherever's most comfortable.
Okay.
I'll see you soon, okay?
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Her brother-in-law died of cancer. He was a firefighter out in Goodyear. And her uncle is Chief Shannon in Scottsdale. She's been wonderful to have for firefighters because when we come in here, it can be very, very scary. And then when you see all your scans up on the wall, you go, wow, I don't have much left in that perineal cavity. Hi, friend.
How are you?
Feeling pretty good except for the pain stuff.
Dr. Gupta been able to help?
He's got a game plan. He feels that it's neuropathy. That's part of the price, right?
But you're alive and you're doing well. And when do you retire?
August 24th is a party. You guys will have a flyer here. I'm not ready for it, but...
Good, then you can come help us with the cancer screening program.
Oh, you know I will. You know I will. I'm going to have a lot of time to volunteer, and I don't want them to have this. So my test results came back from the lab work, and...
You're doing great, Will.
Okay.
In terms of my perspective, you're cancer-free. You're just living the side effects and the complications of the treatment. And you've had a lot of treatment. You've been through everything.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. Appreciate it.
I just honestly don't think people realize how many young firefighters are dying of cancer. I see 2 to 3 a week. And it's very common for me to walk into a room with a 30-year-old and say, you have a very bad cancer. Firefighters are exposed to so many different toxins and they get all sorts of cancers. And so picking it up early and diagnosing it early means minimal treatment, so often just surgery, sometimes chemo, sometimes radiation. Picking it up late means surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, immunotherapy, clinical trials, and then they still may not live. It's difficult on families, it's expensive, and it's often with pain and suffering. And so why would we do that when simple imaging and blood tests can detect cancer early? So currently, we are now screening up to 3,000 first responders a year. It's a comprehensive multidisciplinary program. So a firefighter comes in, they undergo imaging, which includes a whole body MRI and a low-dose lung CT. They see me, I go over their risk factors, their toxin exposures, their family history, personal history, make recommendations based on those. They also see our urologist, they see our dermatologist, any biopsies that may be necessary, and any additional diagnostic workup that they may need. I love catching cancer early. It makes a huge difference, and it makes my job so much easier. As a radiation oncologist, a big portion of what I do is palliating stage 4, making them feel better. But catching cancer at stage 1 when they just require surgery and they don't need to see me, huge game changer, because then they're back to work, they're back to their normal life, and I mean, there's no better outcome than that.
I was a trustee for several years, and we fought to get cancer screenings for all of our firefighters, all of our members. And so then there's some tiers to who was going to get the screenings based on age, years of service. So I waited for my tier to come up, and still in the back of my head, it was like, I'm going to let all these older people go. Let them get scans. They need it. They've been here longer than me. They've fought more fires. Let's make sure they get a clean bill of health. And so my group came up, and I still waited. I even weighed out whether I was going to do it or not, just because I didn't have any symptoms. I was healthy. I felt fine. Even laying in the MRI machine for 45 minutes, just closing my eyes and, listen to the scans, all the tones and the noises that it makes, and just thinking I'm going to get my clean bill of health, and got a phone call the next day. How can I go from perfectly fine an hour ago to potentially not being alive? Yeah, so obviously didn't get a clean bill of health because they found the tumor on my left kidney. And that's when I met Dr. Shukla. Had a secondary scan the very next day. I was at work when she called. I actually missed her phone call. We were running a call and got back and heard her voicemail, and your heart drops. Called her back, listened. Can't really remember a whole lot what she said, other than she was 95% sure it was cancer. Went inside and told my crew, and it was quiet. I sat at the table. I had to go home. I had to see my wife and tell her. And when I called her and told her I was on my way home, which that's alarming because that wasn't going to happen for another day and a half. And I had to tell her I found something on my scan. It had been there for 6 or 7 years based on the size of the tumor. Grows about 1 centimeter a year, and mine was the size of a tennis ball. I had surgery on March 1st of 2023. And right after my surgery is when I started my treatments. 17 cancer treatments over the course of a year, which I finished this March of this year. I'm doing CT scans of my chest, my abdomen, my pelvis every 3 months, just to make sure no tumors are gonna reappear. I don't know how many scans I've had in the last year. I've lost track of that. I've lost track of how many IVs, how many needles have been in my arms and my veins. It's at least 50, maybe 60 or 70. I'm now cancer free, and I feel lucky that I had that scan because I didn't know. Yeah.
Yesterday was a very bad day. A lot of pain. Cancer pain is the most intense pain you can have. It's all-encompassing. It makes you feel like you're hopeless. Like there's no hope at all. The pain in the perineum is getting worse.
Okay.
Worse almost every day.
Okay. The ketamine that you've been getting, was that able to touch the pelvic pain?
It didn't. It did the first time or two, and then it didn't.
So one option that we have is doing a trial of what's called a spinal cord stimulator, where we basically are doing an epidural on you. But instead of injecting steroids, we're going to be introducing this little tiny catheter.
Okay.
You're on your belly, and I just place these in your epidural space.
Okay.
And this gets attached to a battery, which gets taped to your skin, and you go home. And every day for 5 days, I call you to ask you, did you get 50% or better pain relief?
Okay.
If you say yes, we talk about how we're going to internalize this battery. I'm going to need to make 2 incisions. One will be this big, maybe in the middle of your back.
Okay.
And then over here for this battery, I'm going to make the incision that's literally this big, and I'm going to put the battery in between muscle layers. But because it's an implant, it has to be at a surgery center.
Let's do it. Let's test that thing out.
So your insurance requires that we have a psychologist do a psych consult, and it's not because there's anything wrong with you. They just need to assess that you have capacity to consent for this, which you do. Right. So I'm going to put in for that. Someone will call you. They're going to talk to you. They're going to write a note. I submit that to your insurance, and then we're going to get approval, and then we can do it.
I hope this works.
Yeah, I know.
Really do.
And we're going to be optimistic about it, and we're going to test it out, and we'll see how it goes. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you, my friend.
I knew occupational cancer was a risk associated with the fire service. Brian Beck Jr. passed away from occupational cancer at a very young age. That had always been in the back of my mind. Hearing about younger members going in for their screenings, coming back with some findings, I said, you know what, enough's enough. I gotta make this phone call. I gotta go get checked out. Felt 100% fine. A few days after my scan, I got a call from Vershalee saying that they found something in my imaging and that Dr. Shukla wanted to see me. I had cancer in my right kidney as well as my right adrenal gland. I had my right adrenal gland removed and part of my right kidney removed. Cancer is spread it's throughout both lungs. It's in my rib cage, indicating bone metastasis. It's in my colon, 6 tumors on my liver, couple of lymph nodes in my chest. I was in stage 4 cancer, which for my cancer was considered incurable disease. My treatment is all aimed at life prolongation at this point. I don't let it affect me on a day-to-day basis as much as possible, but there are certainly times where it does creep in, whether that be physically or mentally. So I think it's just the challenge of dealing with occupational cancer at times is doing what you need to do while maintaining one step forward, positive attitude, mindset, and staying strong, not for my sake, but for my family's sake, for the people's around me's sake, right? Because life is still happening. My daughters are still going about their normal life, their kids, and I don't want my cancer to be their life, right? So I do absolutely everything I can in my control to make sure that that's the case. My number one hope is that my journey will inspire somebody to go get checked that otherwise wouldn't have, and their life has a chance to be saved through early cancer identification and treatment.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anthony Mock's a special human. I've never seen somebody get so much bad news in such a short period of time and be able to smile. The strength, the courage, the determination to get his message out to make sure that other people get their screening. That'll leave a lasting impression on this fire department for decades. Anthony Mock will save countless lives, unfortunately at his own detriment.
Today we're getting a nerve stimulator placed in my spine. It's to eliminate the pain in my perineal space that came from removing all my organs, and the nerves are just bumbling up and catching each other on fire every day. It's like a hot poker going up straight up where my rectum used to be, all the way into my abdominal cavity, and it's pretty brutal. You know, the only reason I'm doing this trial is because the pain levels can go, I'm living at a 6 or a 7 right now, and goes up to a 9 or a 10, drops me to my knees sometimes, and I just can't deal with that. So that's why this trial is so important. And I've got a lot of hope that it'll work. And Dr. Gupta is really good at what he does, so. Thank you for coming. I've had the most blessed career that you can ever have. Thank you for all the support. There are times where I didn't want to be here anymore. That's such a selfish thing to think about. But I was in so much pain. If it wasn't for my family, I would have taken the easy way out.
I worked with Bill. He was up at Station 7. I was on B shift, he was on A shift. And we saw him in shift change, just always positive, always had a great attitude. He's been struggling with it for over 20 years. Bill has that stereotypical firefighter spirit, right? Where he's got to put on this game face for everybody around him, thinking that's what's required of him. And deep down, he's suffering in silence. I don't know how he does it.
What do you say to Bill when you see him? I mean, he's literally given his organs for this fire department.
I love you. What else can you say?
The joke is that 10 minutes after you retire, they go, "Captain who?" That's just the way it is. I don't care. Just as long as they remember I love them. And I know they love me. And I guess that's where it ends.